talk about the Arabian Peninsula. So in particular, we're going to look at these countries here that are this right here is the Arabian Peninsula. So we're going to look at Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, okay, which is over here. It's like a little island over here. You have Qatar, UAE, United Arab Emirates, Yemen, and Oman. Okay, so those are the countries we're going to look at. So all these that are sitting on this peninsula right here. Okay, here we go. So the people. So the dry desert climate causes most people to live along the coast of the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. Okay, so most of the population lives on the coast of this peninsula. Uh, Migration of workers to oil and construction jobs has actually altered the once exclusively Arab population. So Arab is an ethnicity, okay? And it's sometimes confused. Not all Arabs are Muslims, and not all Muslims are Arabs, okay? But it is an ethnicity, and it's basically people from the Arabian Peninsula. Um, and so, because there's so much oil and construction jobs, we've seen a lot of people from Southern Asia move into the region. In the interior of Saudi Arabia lies Mecca. So, Mecca is right here, okay, on this map. There's Mecca. And then Medina, which is just right up here, okay? And so, these are Mecca is the holy city. This is where Muhammad lived. And then Medina, this is where he went and gained followers, and then he came back to Mecca and took control of the city. Okay, so those are two important cities, and then Riyadh is a very important oil refining center, but also the capital of Saudi Arabia. So early cultures and conquests. So one of the oldest civilizations on the Arabian Peninsula was actually in Yemen. Okay, and it has been difficult for large settlements to exist because of the harsh climate. It is very, very dry and arid, very hot in this area, so it is not really an ideal place to live. But there was a local powerful family that gained control of the territory around 1750, and they struggled against the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire was a Turkish people, and they are going to come in, they're going to take control of much of this area and all the way up to, so this right here is the Ottoman Empire. So they're going to take control of a lot of this. Remember, most of the population lives along the coast, so this is a big area of the coast. So there's a lot of people here, I mean. So anyway, this is the Ottoman Empire, and they're going to go all the way into Europe. Okay, so they're going to take over a lot of this. So this was a unified kingdom of Saudi Arabia that will be established in 1932. The Ottoman Empire will fall. After World War I, it'll get broken up and then into several different countries. So Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar are going to sign treaties with Great Britain for protection against the Ottomans in the late 1800s. And then parts of Yemen were actually under British control from the 1800s all the way to 1967 when they gained independence. And Oman has actually remained independent for most of its history. So this right here is a map that shows how religion has spread throughout the world. So I want you to kind of watch Islam and the way it spreads. Okay. So Islam is in the green. So that's Hinduism there. It's one of the earliest religions. Abraham is the founder of Judaism. So you can see the blue starting to form and spread. Now Buddhism is going to start to spread throughout India there. Here comes Christianity. So Islam is going to be, it's the newest of all these religions here. Here comes Islam. So you can see of the religions, it definitely spreads the fastest and has spread very extensively. Okay, so the partition of Africa is basically basically the splitting of it between Islam and Christianity, and then you can see Israel was created there that's a Jewish state. It's hard to see it because it's so little there and all that green. Okay, but there it is right there. So you can see all of this that we were studying this unit. All of that is Muslim. Okay. So independence. So countries gain independence slowly. So Kuwait is going to win it from Great Britain in around the mid 1900s. The UAE will be established in 1971 when its treaty with Great Britain ended, and they're going to form a group of sheikdoms. A sheikdom's like a kingdom, but it's ruled by sheik. Okay, so a sheik is an Islamic religious leader. And then Saudi Arabia follows what's known as Sharia law. And Sharia law is Islamic law that is based on the Quran. And Kuwait and Qatar are constitutional emirates. So that means they're ruled by an emir or a prince. And their standard of living varies. In the urbanized countries they're based on oil production, they have much higher standards of living. Like Qatar has one of the highest per capita incomes in the world, so going to Qatar would be if you want a high standard of living, that would be a good place to go. UAE would be a good place to go. But they have been working towards creating a more democratic government, though. Okay, so this right here shows the extent of Sharia law. So Sharia law is based on the Quran, okay, and so it might call for things like stoning of people. So, for example, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie The Kite Runner, but in that they show a couple um, who did some things out of wedlock that they shouldn't have been doing, and then at halftime at a soccer game, they throw stones at them and kill them. Okay, so that's an example of Sharia law. So all these countries here have some kind of level of Sharia law. Okay, so at the state level, it's mainly Sharia. It's more harsh in these countries here. Okay, where it's slightly better in these green countries, and then it kind of gets less and less like impactful, I guess, as you get brighter with these colors here. Okay, so culture, so religion. So there's two main sects of Islam. So you have the Sunni and the Shia, and they don't really get along real well. Okay, and so I'll show you a map where a little bit later where I'll show the different where the Sunni and the Shia both live. But most of the Muslims will make the Hajj to Mecca at least once in their lifetime. So that's the fifth pillar of the five pillars, where they have to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. And there are different sects of Islam. Ibadism is they practice a more moderate conservatism, and so they choose their ruler by communal consensus and consent. So that's a more democratic type of Islam. Oman is the only country with a majority Ibadi, though. It's a very small sect. So Sunni and Shia are the biggest one. And then you also have Wahhabi. And these people advocate the literal teaching of the Quran. So they are much more harsh when we talk about like Sharia law and that. Okay, so this right here kind of shows you the breakdown of the Sunni versus Shia. The Sunni is a much larger percent of the Muslim population throughout the world, where the Shia is much smaller. But you can see the red here, these are all Sunni, and then the Shia is these orange here. Okay, and then this is basically the religious composition of the Middle East in general. So you could see there's the red is in, or I'm sorry, the green and the yellow and the purple. This is all different sects of Islam. Okay, so you can see kind of how that's spread out. And then you have a little bit of Christianity, obviously Judaism, and then you have like randos like Zoroastrianism, and then others. Okay, but you can see most of it is Muslims. Education. So most children attend school. Public education is very strong in Kuwait and Qatar. So their literacy rates are pretty high at 83 and 89%. Excuse me. 83 and 89% respectively. And then Bahrain's government actually uses their oil revenues to fund their education, so they have a pretty high literacy rate as well at 89%. Oman is more focused on developing a trained workforce, so their secondary and post-secondary education are actually given a high priority. So what they do is they believe the point of education is to train you for a job. And then healthcare, it really depends on where you're at. They have, in most of these countries, government-owned hospitals. They're not always fully staffed. The problem with government-owned hospitals is there's a lot of rationing. So more and more, especially in the more wealthy places, you'll see more private hospitals in that where you can get better health care. And this can be associated basically with your social or political group. So if you're in a high social or political group, you'll be able to get health care a little bit easier than those who are not. The arts and celebrations. So, mosques and palaces are the best examples of the Islamic architecture, and they're all dotted throughout the Arabian Peninsula. They also discourage depicting living figures in their religious art. So, if you ever go into a mosque, you won't see, like if you go into like a church, you'll see pictures of saints and Jesus and different people. But if you go into a mosque, it's just a lot of geometric shapes. Okay, so they don't really or floral designs. They don't really, they don't at all show any kind of living, any people who actually lived. They also use calligraphy. Okay, calligraphy is an elaborate writing. They use that to write out Arabic, and then the passages of the Quran in Arabic adorn many walls. And then the religious holidays and observances are all connected to Islam. So Eid al-Adha is the feast of the sacrifice. Okay, so this is when they make a pilgrimage to Mecca. And then Ramadan is a month of fasting from dawn until dusk. This was actually specifically mentioned in the Quran. Now, what's interesting about Ramadan is this is a lunar holiday. It's not a solar holiday. So it doesn't happen at the same time every year. Okay, so sometimes it's in the winter and sometimes it's in the summer. Okay, it kind of moves around. So if it's kind of nice if it's in the winter time because the days are shorter. So because you have to fast from dawn till dusk. So if the nights are longer, you have a little bit more time to eat. Okay, and that's all I got for you today. Don't forget to do your processor. Have a good day.